offices, and we even emphasized to them that we need to meet our target of 3.8 billion, whereby land rates alone should give us a close to 1 billion. So they were to give us this data, but to date, just want to assure you that we've not got the data. But then just as the chair said, once this data is shared with us, we'll eat the ground and we'll try as much as possible to get all the traders.
Benson.
On the table right now is about the fire station, not sub-counties. Those one are just stories around for the whole counties. The issue is what is happening at the former fire station, kindly. We need the direct answer from that place, not other sub-counties. The datas, we don't have business with the datas. Those are your duties. You will know how you are working on them, Chair.
Well, Benson is saying is somehow holds water, because let us first be specific with what has brought us here. That is the old fire station. Go on, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Very much for the questions. The Chair, you asked, was it taken this long? If you had not called us here, would we have done anything? As I've alluded earlier, we were already appraised of this issue of the old fire station. Our officers, the ward revenue officer, visited the old fire station many months ago and actually found traders there. And the traders signposted us, as I said, to the city manager's office to say that they were seeking refuge there with the permission of the city manager while they were still looking for a permanent abode. It is from that meeting that we actually officially contacted the city to have a sit down with them regarding the traders who are there, who are actually not paying rent. I believe that the single business permit, which is the trade license, should be paid. If there is any trader there who has not paid, our officers will actually take action against those ones. I think Kadianga Electricals has paid his single business permit, his license, but the rent is the one which he has not actually paid. The other 5 or 6 traders, I cannot actually authoritatively confirm, but they are supposed to actually pay single business permit. So I think that is something which we'll check when we leave this. Honorable Degari asked that what duration were they given before they can actually start paying. There is no written documentation or agreement between the traders who are at the old fire station on how long they were supposed to take. I think they just took advantage of the fact that they had a loose word-of-mouth agreement with the city and continued enjoying those premises without paying. But in our meeting that we had with the city, we insisted that when the contracts are being done, the contracts are to be backdated to when they actually moved in, once an assessment has been done on how much they are supposed to actually pay for the rental, for the rent of the premises. Honorable Ken, we will avail the copies of the meeting minutes to your committee, the meetings that we've had between us and the city, which touches on the old fire station. In terms of how much we have lost, I want to bring to your attention, the chair, that one of the biggest challenges that the board is dealing with is actually rental income, not just from the old fire station, but also from the institutional houses of the county, which owes tens of millions of shillings over the years from people who are staying in houses who have actually not paid. So the county continues to lose huge sums of money in regards to actually rental income from institutional houses and actually shops and stalls. And this is something which has led to the board setting up a debt collection unit, which is now dedicated towards collecting these historical debts, especially where we've got some county staff staying in houses or where we have got outsiders like traders renting premises and actually not paying. So we've set up a debt collection unit using our mandate to actually collect some of that debt. It's a big problem. It's a big problem which has been brought to the attention of even His Excellency the Governor. We've taken it to our revenue roundtable because we've even been unable to get some check-off from staff who are staying in houses. So it's the loss is huge. It's in tens of millions of shillings if we leave outside the fire station which is in questions. I am not aware of the structures. I have not visited the site myself, Honorable Nancy, so I'm not aware of the structures which are still being constructed on site. I think that would require my inspectorate as well as our team to actually go there and do a new assessment. Honorable Basso wanted to know why, whether the delays in these people paying is brought by the city. Actually, just like, I know we are talking about Azimio next, but some of these guys who are moved to these temporary places, I'll give you an example, Chair. One of the markets that I've been able to deal with successfully is a market called Chichwa. And Chichwa was actually built when demolitions happened in town and traders were actually moved to Chichwa. Since COVID time, they have never paid anything. No single business permit. They've never paid for any rent. They've always said that they were moved there on humanitarian grounds. So it took still for us to actually change that at the beginning of this year, around about February, March, in which we took over Chichwa away from the city and actually did new mapping of all the traders who are there and actually billed all of them for the rent and actually for the single business permit. And there's been 76% compliance now in Chichwa. The same problem is the problem that we have with a market like Uhuru Market, because one of the ownership, who owns Uhuru Market? Is it the county? Is it the national government? Again, Uhuru Market has been a problem for us. We've been unable to actually collect money from Uhuru Market. We are now, we've done initial public participation with the traders who are there so that we can do mapping and actually start charging them. Because when these people are moved from point A to B, they are given an amnesty, which is not written down, and it can take 3-4 years for some traders not to actually be paying while others are actually paying. So the old fire station also took that route. It's only that it's been arrested within 7 or 8 months before it became a normal thing. You said, Mr. Chair, that there is somebody who is collecting revenue on behalf of the county. I am not aware of that, but that would be fraud because our collections are cashless. And if that is brought to our attention, or the person is brought to our attention, then of course we will take remedial action immediately. Honorable Molo wanted to know whether there's a framework from the board to collect without the city. As I said, the way the town is organized in departments and in sections, there are certain decisions or duties which are delegated to the city. So the city then collect on our behalf, and we send our staff to the city who sit there and actually supervises the collection, but the city is actually takes lead in that. And I'll give you an example of what I've said, which is Chichwa, which was being managed by the city, and the city is the one who took the traders there. The city is the one who gave them the stalls and then left them without actually paying. So we intervened through cabinet. We took the matter to cabinet, and then we were given permission to actually work with the city and take over the management of shops at Chichwa. So that is the same way I said that with 3 months now down the line with the old fire station, if the contracts are not forthcoming, then we are going to actually now intervene directly to get them to actually start paying. In terms of revenue leakage, Honorable Were, it's still a big problem. You know, change management is very difficult. The new system that we brought in, which is supposed to be cashless, you still find there is still some bad elements within the system, Honorable Chair, of people who are still collecting cash. We are working with the Inspectorate to actually beef up compliance checks to make sure that we actually reduce this. It's very, very difficult, for example, in markets or in parking sometimes, because the time difference between when somebody takes cash and the compliance officer arrives there is shorter. But we are trying to actually reduce it by giving targets to our collectors and actually monitoring it through our system. In terms of the revenue officer, Chair, who the sub-county revenue officer for Central, who was dealing with this matter, it is the revenue officer who actually brought this matter to the attention of the board 4 months ago with his board revenue officer. Once the matter was brought to our attention, a subcommittee was formed between the city and Kisumu County Revenue Board to deal with that matter of the old fire station. And I think it is that which culminated. They've met twice or thrice to actually get this issue of contracts actually done. But it's been dragging for too long. But I think now with the impetus from the assembly now and your committee, I think now it's time for us to maybe swoop in and actually deal with it the same way we dealt with Chichwa. I'll stop there for now.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, let me give Honorable Odega a minute first.
Yeah. There is a question I asked him, and I know him very well before getting in this office. He's a businessman. In your premises, someone is doing such kind of business, not submitting anything to you. Two, there's an answer you gave there that you are not aware that there are some construction is going on in the same place. When you go to that place using the behind gate on your left, and they are building stalls with permanent blocks. Chair, let us be serious about this thing, kindly.
Thank you. I think you had him very clear, because you mentioned that you have not visited that place. Reasons are best known to yourself. But again, it has come to our notice that there is a construction. It may be not be touching to your board, but you should be alive of that kind of happening. That there are stalls that are being built in the same premises. And again, there are some other business entities apart from Kadianga. You also need to know that. I think your sub-county revenue officer should have brought that to your attention. That is not only Kadianga who is sitting there in that location, but there are some other business entities. And again, Chair, the concern of Honorable Odega is very, very, very clear. As an individual, somebody is sitting in your premises, is not giving you money. and you really need this money. And then you don't want to pull strings so that you be paid. You know, the back and forth communication from with the city department. We also need those evidence, so that when we do a report that is informed. I think that is it. Then, no, this one is coming later. Thank you. You have anything that you want to add on that?
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, it's like you sound or you have a jurisdiction, an area to cover, and somebody sitting in the House, in the County Assembly, knowing very clearly that whoever should answer the questions concerning revenue in Kisumu County is your board. But I'm finding some kind of development that there are areas you are not allowed to operate in. You don't have powers on some areas. You have to ask back. Then you come again. Could you please come clear, because we need to help you. No, maybe you can roast you, but you don't belong there. You will be carrying some luggage which are not yours. What is happening? You mean there are some areas you are not allowed to collect revenue? And again, we have a sub-county, somebody in charge of sub-county. You know, Kisumu city, not only city, but central is so big for an individual, one person to control this. You see, that is now an oversight in one way or the other. But I don't understand. But you just have to go back to the cabinet, then you are allowed to collect. What does that mean? You mean you are not in charge? Then who is in charge of the revenue for the county? I'm getting something like that. But you are not coming clear. Chair, it's not coming clear. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope it's clear. Before we move to the response.
Much for your question. I think firstly, I want to say that some of these movements within the streets are also political. You know, for example, Chichwa was the directive of His Excellency the Governor, who actually said that the amnesty was given to those people, but there was no duration. That is why I said that we went back to the executive to request that for how long should Chichwa traders stay in those premises without paying. The amnesty now was lifted, and the governor said that, hang on a minute, how long have they been there? They've been there since COVID. They need to start paying. Because they had actually been put there through political means, it needed a political solution. So that is why we went back to the executive to ask, because the Chichwa Market Management Committee kept on saying that they were given those premises by the executive as compensation. So the question was, how long was the compensation period before they actually start paying? So we quantified for them what loss the county had made and how much compensation they had received. And then we convinced the executive that they now need to actually pay. Now, the old fire station people who were also moved there, they were moved there on humanitarian grounds, in quotes, from what we were told when we seized of the matter. And that is why we went and said that, how long, the same question Honorable Were asked, how long is this humanitarian grounds going to actually last? And at that point is when we said they have to actually start paying like everybody else. And that is why we said that the city said that they are actually doing the contracts on their behalf. I mean, departments do collect revenue on our behalf. For example, Department of Lands, planning, physical planning, they collect revenue on our behalf. So they've got their own staff who collect the revenue, then they report to us, then we verify. The city also collects some revenue. For example, green spaces like the parks, which you see here, the city collects that money. Department of Agriculture like that collects through their vets. So certain departments collect revenue on our behalf, and our job is to actually verify and actually check that that money has actually come in. So for Old Fire Station, the city was the one with the mandate to provide those contracts. Then an assessment is done on how much each person is supposed to pay. Then they pay us. Then we actually check for compliance that they're actually paying us. So that is what I actually meant by saying that the city has delayed in providing those contracts. And where there's been too much delay, we've actually then intervened to actually take action, remedial action, to make sure that the loss does not actually continue beyond. For example, now with the new information that we have, that there are more stalls being actually constructed there. For the stalls to be constructed there, they have to have paid, through the Department of Lands and Physical Planning, they needed to have actually paid for the planning permission. So we are going to actually ask the town planner whether planning permission was sought and whether it's been paid for those new stalls which are actually going on. So there is interdependence between departments and between our board and other departments in how revenue is actually generated and actually collected. And that is how it works across the county. So we do not work actually in isolation. We cannot go to the hospital and start collecting revenue. There is a mechanism under which we collect revenue in hospital using the hospital management team and CHMT, which are actually committees within hospitals. So when we second our person in the hospital at the accounts department, the processes are actually independent of what our person actually does there. So it's that interdependence that ensures that revenue is collected more efficiently across the county. So, and I hope that makes it more clearer in respect to the Old Fire Station. You know, in a nutshell, we've not been able to collect because the contracts have not been finalized by the city. Number one. Two, because the city moved those people there on humanitarian grounds until it was brought to our attention to intervene. Now that we intervened 3 months ago, the contract has not been forthcoming. We are now going to actually move on to the next step of either doing the contract ourselves, if the city is still delaying in doing the contracts, and actually doing a new mapping of the new stalls which are actually going on there. I mean, the same can be said about Azimio as well. You know, when people are actually moved into a place and they are told that you guys stay here, you are not paying for a while. What is that a while? So our job as a revenue board is to ensure that we can find various streams, as many as possible, to actually collect that revenue. But of course, you got to balance politics and also what's happening on the ground. So where the city has intervened, we have to go to the city and ask them so that there is no conflict, so that we are working in tandem, we are working together rather than actually at cross purposes.
Members, I want us to conclude on the first matter, then we go to the second one. Yes.
There's a confirmation before this house that the board is not in control of our revenue. That is what is happening. May I just ask through the chair, Dr. is the board in direct control and total control of our revenue? Could you please just confirm, because that is very important for us. You know, I told you we are going to roast you over issues which probably are not yours. So could you please confirm, because we may be calling you in the house, but in the real sense we should be calling somebody again, and that somebody we don't know where that person is. Clear. we said here very clearly, and we know that the board is seconding officers within the hospitals. And it is confirmed now that the hospitals we have are collecting revenue and actually submitting the reports. We don't have revenue collectors in the hospitals seconded by the board. It is confirmed here. That is one thing which is there. He has just said, even at the lands office, those who are collecting rent or something like that are not from the board. The only thing they get the report, they verify, then they feed in the system. That is what he has said. He was here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think I'm very disappointed with how the Chair is responding to these questions. The last time we met with the Chair, that is in January, when we were in Naivasha, when he was projecting how they will increase our own source revenue. And how he's speaking today, I think we have so much to worry about. And I will not mince my words. And to be honest, we are really disappointed. I think we've really supported you as the Assembly. Just the other day, when you requested the revenue officers, you were given. And today, until today, we still see such things. I think we should really be disappointed in you. I thought you had all the capabilities to see this to the end. But how you are responding today, when you see someone is, it ought to be, it should have been. I think that should be our worrying statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Basu. Just switch microphone. Thank you. Honorable Moses.
Thank you, my chairman. Before I say anything, may I first apologize for having come late. I was a little bit committed with other issues. Chair, I don't know when you started this session, but going by the time on the schedule, I don't think we've consumed much. And we cannot be in a hurry to make conclusions. I think the team here is just from the other mother. And the reason why we invited them was to get information on how they are handling matters of revenue collection. Mr. Chair, based on what we found out on the ground when we were going around Azimio fire stations, you can crucify a team because they are trying to be honest. But Chair, with you at Azimio, we realized that the city is holding grip that place. And we even witnessed a guy who is a revenue collector going behind us to warn them not to give more information, forgetting that we have been there earlier. I think, Chair, for us to build a serious revenue collecting authority, then we have to consult by us giving them gray areas, which we found on the field, then they respond if they really understand our predicament or they understand what is actually taking place on the ground. If they do understand, what are the remedies they're planning? Chair, we cannot just fix them by saying, Governor gave an order. It is true, Governor gave an order for as many people that they be accommodated there, and it was indefinite. So we should just ask them, what remedies are they putting in place, other than vilifying them for a matter that we know very well happened long before they came. Chair, finally on that matter, I know this board is composed of very competent staff. I know the capacity of the chair. I know the capacity of the CEO, the new CEO. I know the capacity of Madam Mary, who is a strong woman advocate. Chair, we are not in a slaughterhouse. I want a situation whereby when we be drawing our report, we do a report based on the areas which you highlighted and on the answers they've given, and then we get to solution. What is the solution? And the solution must be agreeable to all of us. Then what we can agree on is that after this meeting, and after we shall have drafted a report and table in the assembly, is there any change? I think that's the step to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chair, do you have anything or you want to respond to the Azimio issues? They are more or less, in fact, you've also touched about issues of Azimio while you are responding to the old fire station. Somehow you've touched on matters of Azimio. But again, just take us to speed. Is Azimio also enjoying the immunity that the governor gave out? Number two, Azimio as a market, are they paying the ground rent? We visited it. Honorable Chele is alive to the fact there are a lot of businesses, premises have no trade license. What have you done? Thank you.
Chair, just to, before I touch on Azimio, just to a quick rejoinder to Honorable Ken, question to, is the board in charge of revenue? I mean, the board exists through an act of this parliament, which is, which gives it its mandate as the sole agency for assessing, collecting and accounting for all county revenue. So we are fully in charge. We are the receiver of revenue in the whole county. Now, for revenue to be collected, the revenue must be generated. The generation of revenue is the work of departments. And that is why we formed monthly revenue roundtables, bringing together all the ministers and chief officers. And this is how revenue is generated. For example, in markets, the lights must work, the rubbish must be collected, and that sort of thing. Because when those two do not happen, then our collectors are unable to actually collect any revenue. The Department of Trade is in charge, of Environment is in charge of rubbish collection in markets. In the city here, in Kisumu Central, the city is in charge of collecting rubbish. And the city is in charge of making sure that there is lighting in markets, for example. When those two do not happen, the traders refuse revenue collection. So the revenue generation is done through departments. The departments have got staff which actually exist, which are employees who are tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that revenue can be generated. For example, Department of Lands and Physical Planning and Housing has got staff. There's Director of Housing, who is in charge of institutional houses. There is a director in charge of lands, whose responsibility is to deal with issues, to do the assessment of how much should ground rent be. For example, in Azimio, how much should we actually charge for the ground rent? How much should we charge on the stall? And that is what makes its way to the finance bill, which is being canvassed currently. The revenue board, through the staff that we inherited from the finance department, seconds certain accountants to various departments to oversee the collection of revenue. For example, a revenue officer is not a planner. The planner is the one who receives the application for a building and assesses it and calculates and then invoices. Then the revenue officer, who is seconded to that department, then once the planner has generated the invoice, ensures that the payment is done and is actually receipted. So that is the interdependence on how the system works. So I just wanted to clarify that to you so that you understand how it actually works. For example, in a hospital situation, you have got the patient going through casualty, going through getting admitted, and then the calculation is done by the hospital staff. Then we've seconded accountants in the accounts department who now does the final invoicing with the hospital staff to the client, and then the client actually pays through Facility Improvement Fund, FIF. Then the FIF is now reported to us through our staff who is there and the hospital staff. And then that is what we actually compute once we've verified through bank statements that that money is actually there. So we become the receiver of revenue. So I just wanted to actually clarify how that actually works to you. And Bwana Chair, the Azimio issue is also the same as certain markets where we are working with the city to actually do mapping data of every trader who was actually moved to Azimio. That data has been with the city. It's being collated so that we know who are the traders who are actually given spaces and what kind of value should they actually pay. They are supposed to pay us trade license because the amnesty which they were given has actually lapsed. We've actually told them that just like everybody else in KCT or Chichwa or whatever, they also actually have to pay. We, at the moment as we speak now, we have got our teams going round, including in Azimio, actually ensuring that those who have actually not paid for their trade licenses actually now can actually pay, because they can no longer say that they were displaced and they've actually been moved there. It is not an easy task to actually do because it's got its ups and downs, but we are actually trying to ensure that we are fair to all traders in this town. There is no point of somebody at KCT paying and somebody at Chichwa not paying, somebody at Azimio not paying, somebody at Uhuru Market not paying. So we are trying to actually be fair to everybody. But to delink it away from the city,
Chair, I think the big issue at Chichwa is about allotment letter. There's a section which has already received the allotment letters, and most of them, Azimio, and most of them have license on their premises. So I just want to know, Chairman, Chair for the Revenue Board, because there's a mix-up. It is like they are willing to give. They raise two issues. One, they've been denied allotment letters, and that is the official engagement between them and the county government. Two, they were complaining about service delivery. They don't have toilets, the area is not swept. So these issues, as a person in charge of revenue management, how can you fast track allotment, issue of allotment letter, and how will you ensure that the relevant departments, the very relevant departments, deliver services that they need? Because that will also motivate them to give revenue.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The issue of service delivery, we requested the Department of Trade to actually asked for market superintendents, which are actually being recruited to actually ensure that the service delivery within this market is actually up to speed. I think that recruitment process is about to finish. In terms of the allotment letters is outside our remit of functionality. That is actually with the city. And that is why the city has told us that they are completing the mapping of all the traders who are there to make sure that each one of them has got an allotment letter. But I don't know why there has been a delay in that. Maybe the city is best tasked in actually answering that. But the city keeps on telling us that they're finalizing the list with allotment letters so that actually everybody can actually pay. But some of them, majority of them actually have paid their business licenses. The only thing which they've not been paying is the plot, is the rent, is the ground rent, because of the lack of the allotment letters, which they're still waiting for from the city. So that is the situation at Azimio.
Thank you, Chair. Is there any other concern? Yes, Honorable.
Chair, I think to the chair board, there should be punitive actions on those who don't comply in terms of business permits. What we witnessed in the market we went to, where a good percentage were not, and we assume maybe several other markets also, or shops also does the same. These punitive measures which you put in place, what are they? Because if we are in September, I think they are given latitude up to March. I also do business in town, so I know up to March you are supposed to get your business in order in terms of the permit. But you find that we are in September, most of them have not complied. So what punitive measures have you put into place to really make sure that they pay? Thank you.
We are working with Inspectorate and Enforcement since last week, actually, to check for three things. One is those licenses which were underpaid when traders actually come and say the size of their shop is not what it is. So we are checking those and making sure that they top up. For those who have actually not paid now, we are giving fines. We are actually giving fines, and sometimes we are actually trying to take some of their wares to force them to actually pay. And that is something which is ongoing the whole of last week and the whole of this week around the city, 3 Kisumu West, Kisumu East, and Kisumu Central, to make sure that people actually pay for their licenses. So, of course, we are also dealing with issues of fraud, trying to actually reduce fraud, because some of the traders are saying, as the chair was alluding, saying that somebody is collecting money on their behalf. So we are telling them that if you give money to somebody, that is your problem. You actually have to actually pay us. So we are actually enforcing that using different teams the whole of this week and the whole of last week.
Thank you. Now, I think, honorable members, matters that we wanted the revenue board to highlight has been addressed, but Chair, I directed that you give evidence of the communication that you've been having between you and the city, and the communications that you've been having between you and the Department of Lands, Physical Planning and Urban Development. And again, this one is not part of what we were tackling today, but I want to bring it to your attention. Before that, can you also, you've mentioned some fines that are being levied on defaulters. When we talk about budgeting and revenue, it will also be better if you tell the committee how much those fines and how do you reach determine the fines that you levy on these defaulters. And lastly, just for your information, as you are struggling to meet the own source revenue targets which you set, are you aware that the proposed 2024-2025 finance bill, the Department of Economic Planning has downscaled the rents that are being paid by the tenants who are occupying houses that belongs to the county. If you're not alive to that information, then you need to work on it. I was shocked when I was going through the finance bill, where you find a 3-bedroom house that was costing around 12,000 has been downscaled to 7,000. 2-bedroom houses have been downscaled. So as you are struggling to meet the target, kindly go and have a proper and a keen look on the 2024-2025 finance bill. Thank you.
Does it mean, Chair, Revenue Board, you don't participate in the preparation of the finance bill? Seemingly from his point of view, maybe you don't, you do. And are you alive to these facts? Okay. Upwards. Okay. Upwards. From what we have now, because we have the finance bill with us now. So you should really check and tell us what is amiss.
Thank you. No, this is not a matter of discussion, honorable members. I was just giving you, it's a serious thing, but I'm telling you, I met this information during public participation. While the public were crying, why would you downscale rents for government houses while you increase services, you increase levies on patients? Something of the sort. But they're there. Get a copy and have a look. That is for your information.
Chair, you can just see where the problem is. As much as our board is trying to make things work, there's a lot of frustrations and all such kind of things. If we can't help them, now I don't think we'll move. So they should come up with how they want us to help them, so that when we can review the act, so that we give them more powers to act on what they should be acting on. Secondly, we really believe that the target can be met as they believed, but there's some kind of political, some such kind of interference within here, and we can help them. Yeah, let us help the board so that they have the powers to deal with issues, so they collect money and we move as a county. Thank you.
Thank you. Last, I want to thank the board for honoring this invitation. And I believe that if need be, our support is needed. Kindly just communicate to us. And I believe that given the task that you have, the assembly is out to assist and help whenever possible. And that is why I was also even giving you that information. I thought it was prudent enough for you to have that kind of information so that you don't struggle to meet the own source revenue while somebody is pulling your legs. And if there is no any other matter that may be addressed, then the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.